Thank you very much, Neera, and let me thank CAP for the opportunity to say a few words to you today and for all of the important work that CAP has done over the years. Today, I know it's been a long day for many of you in the audience. You have heard a lot of important remarks about some of the most important issues facing our country. And today, I am sure that you will be hearing about, as Neera just mentioned, the need for the United States to join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to all people as a right, not a privilege, through a Medicare for All single-payer program. You will hear discussion about the need to reward work and finally raise the minimum wage in this country to a living wage, $15 an hour, and at the same time to demand that women receive equal pay for equal work. And I am sure that during the course of the day, speaker after speaker has mentioned the absolute need for us to protect a woman's right to choose and not have local, state, or federal governments take away that basic right. And I'm sure that there will also be discussion about rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and creating up to 15 million good-paying jobs as we rebuild our roads and our bridges and our water systems and our airports and our rail system and build the affordable housing that this country desperately needs. And I'm sure that there will be discussion about fundamental education reform, making sure this country moves to universal child care, making sure we improve public education, making sure that finally we move toward making public colleges and universities tuition-free, and that we deal with the very, very serious burden that millions of Americans have regarding student debt. And I have no doubt that there will be discussion about the need to end institutional racism in our country, to end the failed war on drugs, and to make dramatic reform of a criminal justice system which is failing the American people every single day. There will be, I am sure, discussion about the need for comprehensive immigration reform, protecting the 1.8 million young Americans either in the DACA program or eligible for that program, and the need to move to comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship for the undocumented. There will be, and we just heard it, serious discussion about climate change, the need to take on the fossil fuel industry and move this country to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And there will be, I am sure, ideas brought forth about the need to guarantee a job for every American and the need to pass legislation which makes it easier for workers to join unions. All of these issues and others that I have not mentioned are enormously important, and we must do everything we can to move them forward. But there is one issue out there which is so significant and so pervasive that unless we successfully confront it, it will be impossible for us to succeed on any other of these important issues. The simple fact is that in the United States today, at a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, we have a very small number of people, multi-billionaires, who comprise less than 1/100th of 1% of our population, yet who have extraordinary power over our economic, political, and social life. Fewer than 1/100th of 1% of the American people. In his great speech at Gettysburg, Abraham Lincoln reminded us that this country is about a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And let us make no mistake about it. The oligarchy in this country, whose greed is insatiable, is destroying Lincoln's vision of America, is destroying our vision of America, and is moving us toward a government of the few, by the few, and for the few. And that is a direction we must oppose with every fiber of our being. Let me be very clear. The disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision is undermining the very fabric of American democracy. Today we have the Koch brothers and a few of their billionaire friends planning to spend up to $400 million in the coming midterm elections to elect candidates who protect the wealthy and the powerful. Today we have another multi-billionaire, Sheldon Adelson, who just announced $30 million to prop up the Republican effort to maintain control of the U.S. Congress. In campaign after campaign all across this country, we have super PACs funded by billionaires competing with other super PACs funded by billionaires to determine congressional representation. My friends, that is not what this country is supposed to be about. Further, we have big money interests who are pushing voter suppression efforts all across this nation to deny people of color, older people, poor people, young people, the right to participate in the political process. If we are serious about our desire to maintain representative government in our country, one person, one vote, we must not only overturn Citizens United, end voter suppression and extreme gerrymandering, but we must move toward automatic voter registration. My friends, it is not a radical idea to say that every American over the age of 18 should be automatically registered to vote if they are a citizen of this country. We must make it easier for people to vote, not harder. We must end the disgrace of having one of the lowest voter turnouts of any major country on earth. Please do not forget, because if you do, we will pay the price for that, that 4 years ago in the midterm elections, some 37% of the American people voted, the lowest voter turnout since World War II. But the move toward oligarchy in our country not only impacts our political system, it impacts our economy and the standard of living of working people. Let me be as clear as I can be. The current grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in this country is not only immoral, it is causing massive suffering for the working families of our country. Today, the 3 wealthiest people in America own more wealth than the bottom 50%, over 160 million people. Let me repeat that. 3 people own more wealth than the bottom 160 million Americans. According to Time magazine, from January 1st through May 1st of this year, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, saw his wealth increase by $275 million every single day, for a total increase in wealth of $33 billion in a 4-month period. Meanwhile, thousands of Amazon employees are forced to rely on food stamps, Medicaid, and public housing because their wages are just too low. And that is true of the Walton family of Walmart and other wealthy families. They get much richer while their employees barely survive economically. And when we talk about wealth inequality, let us not forget that the wealth gap between white Americans and African Americans has more than tripled over the past 50 years. Today, the median white family has almost 10 times as much wealth as the median black family. Right now, in America, over 40 million of our people are officially living in poverty, but the truth is that 140 million Americans are struggling economically. Over half of older Americans have no savings and no idea how they will be able to retire with any shred of dignity, and 44% of Americans do not have the cash to pay for an unexpected $400 financial expense like a car breaking down or a medical emergency. 44% of the American people do not have $400 available for an emergency. Unbelievably, up to 20% of people in jail today, some 400,000 people. Do you know why they are in jail? They are in jail for the crime of being poor. They are being imprisoned because they lack the money for cash bail or to pay fines for minor violations like owing a traffic ticket. The younger generation doesn't know this, but 50 years ago, one wage earner in a family could support his or her entire family. Today, despite all of the new technology and increased worker productivity, it takes two breadwinners, often working very long hours, to raise a family because the price of health care, prescription drugs, housing, education, energy, and child care has gone up at a far, far higher pace than wages. The American vision of the future, our vision, must be to create a government and economy that works for all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. To do that, we must have the courage to confront the oligarchy, to break up this oligarchy, and restore power to the many, not the few. Now, what does that mean in practical terms? It means that instead of giving over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and large profitable corporations, as Trump and the Republicans in Congress recently did, we must demand that Wall Street, the billionaire class, and large profitable corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. Instead of trying to abolish the estate tax, which impacts less than 0.2% of our population, we must substantially increase the estate tax, not only to bring in needed revenue, but to help dismantle the oligarchy. At a time when governments all over the world are imposing austerity on their people, including a Trump budget, which, as you'll recall, proposed massive cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, education, and environmental protection, the wealthiest people and most profitable corporations in the world are stashing at least $21 trillion in offshore tax havens and avoiding their tax responsibilities. We need not only national legislation, but international cooperation to end that scam. We need to stop imprisoning people for smoking marijuana and for being poor, and start prosecuting the crooks on Wall Street whose greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior caused the greatest economic downturn since the Great Depression 10 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an unprecedented moment in American history, and we need an unprecedented response. Together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, women and men, gay and straight, young and old. We must not allow Donald Trump or anyone else to divide us up. Because when we stand together as one people, united, fighting for a progressive agenda, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Thank you all very much.